Nothing shocks me anymore when I look at the news. The only thing that I can say is, looks like that line is getting further and further behind us. Because now the state of Washington is trying to pass a bill to say that we can take care of your child better than you can.
We believe it is better to have a young person in a shelter with some adult supervision than having them out living on the streets.
Governor Inslee voicing support for a new bill intended to protect trans youth. Senate Bill 5599 passed the Senate, House, and is on its way to the governor's desk. The law would allow shelters to not contact a young person's parents if that young person is after, quote, protected health care services. That includes gender-affirming treatment.
That is what this bill is intended to do, to ensure that these youth have access to safe housing.
Legislation that has been widely criticized by the right, including the chairman of the Washington State Republican Party. He fears the bill is overreaching.
The law already outlaws abuse, and you could call CPS, and we certainly want to protect children. But we think this bill goes too far in taking loving parents away from important, significant decisions that teens are making.
The bill is intended to lower the barrier of entry to shelters for trans youth. Critics argue it leaves parents in the dark.
That is in the bill, that if a teen runs away and a loving parent is trying to find where their teen is at, the state will not tell them. And as a parent, that's terrifying.
The governor says he's still awaiting a full briefing on the legislation, but in the meantime is voicing support.
If a young person is totally estranged from their parents, has no meaningful relationship, we need someone to care for that child. And the way the legislation is set up is essentially the Department of Children, Youth, and Families will step into that position to care for that child. So you have somebody looking out for their benefit.
Sebastian Robertson, King 5 News.
If this bill is passed, your child can transition without your permission. And if your child is kind enough to tell you they want to transition, but you say no, then the state can come pick up your child. So my question to you is, what would you do if the state kidnapped your child? It is a crazy time we're living in today, and for some reason, people are missing the fact that the suicide rate trying to affirm their gender, because if you don't affirm their gender, you're trying to push them towards suicide. It doesn't change post-operation. But for some reason, state propagandists will come out like SNL and say, you should transition your kids, and if you don't care about them.
What is all this?
Well, as you know, I've been wanting to come to Update and talk about trans people, but I have for a much longer time than that wanted to fly down from the ceiling.
And did it live up to your expectations?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie, this harness is pretty tight and my groin area is beefed. I've been hung up on my genitals for far too long, and I'm starting to feel like a frickin' Republican lawmaker. Hello!
That's an awesome transition. So, as of this week, there are now over 14 states that have passed bills restricting health care for trans kids.
Listen to that, Michael.
Yeah.
Restricting health care for kids. For some reason, there's something about the word trans that makes people forget the word kids. If you don't care about trans kids' lives, it means you don't care about frickin' kids' lives.
Wow, man. I can tell you're really upset about that.
I am! And also, my legs are going numb and I might pass out.
Oh, Molly, how long were you hanging up there?
Longer than I would have liked. I tried to call down, but no one could hear me. You know, at one point, I heard a crew guy say, "Is she gonna die up there?" And then another guy was like, "You mean, are they going to die up there?" And then they both walked away and didn't help. Which feels a lot like how trans people are being treated right now. But don't worry, we have a code word for emergencies, and it was trans rights. Oh my gosh! Good golly! I want to talk to you! What's happening, kids, is wrong, and you don't need to be scared. Our job is to protect you, and your job is to focus on being a kid. It's kind of like me flying in the SNL sky. There's a bunch of dudes asking you about your crotch and controlling when and where you're allowed to pee. But if you just hang on, you'll look up and realize, you're flying, kid!
First of all, I am old enough to remember Chris Farley when he was on SNL, when SNL was actually funny. And this is a blatant ripoff of his act. And secondly, we can all agree that children should just be children. Especially conservatives, we always thought that. But for some reason, the people on the left are the only ones that believe that children should do adult things as well, like transitioning. Because, cutting off your penis should be an adult decision. At least you have to wait till you're like 25 and your brain is fully developed and you had it long enough to know what it's used for. But the crazy Democrats want children that have their penis removed when they're like 6 years old. And guess what? That's going to pretty much end your childhood, because once that happens, you have to continuously go to the hospital and have something inserted where your penis used to be to keep the womb open. So yeah, childhood is out the window. And they say it's because to protect the children. Because if you don't affirm their gender, they're going to X themselves off the planet. But let's be honest. The rate of suicide doesn't change. They still around 40%. No matter how many times you play somber music and look deeply into the camera with all your emotions on your sleeves, it doesn't change the fact that transitioning kids harms them. And who knows, they could actually change their mind. And sometime a girl who wants to be a boy or a boy who wants to be a girl, they can probably just be either feminine or masculine, or they may just be homosexual. But if you chop their penis off or start giving them puberty blockers, that's not going to help them any. And you can just check out this clip from an individual who kind of regrets the fact that they snuck around behind their parents' back and did this.
An almost 30-year-old man. This is what I look like. This is what I sound like as an almost 30-year-old man. This is what happens when you let people transition in adolescence before they've had a chance to grow up, before they had a chance to even learn who they were. Not just let, but pressure. Pressure people to transition at these ages. Young, vulnerable people who are already so suggestible. And I feel like everyone is ignoring the pain because they are afraid that it threatens their choices and their narrative. If you want to transition in your 20s, you've had a chance to be a man or a woman, and this is what you want to do, okay, that's one thing. I do take accountability. I did it in secret from my parents. I take accountability for all of my choices. But when is the trans community going to take accountability for theirs? For leading me down this path? This is the face of an almost 30-year-old man. This is the voice of an almost 30-year-old man.
So who are you going to believe? An individual who actually went through this situation when they was at a young age? Or are you going to take Dave's word, who's hanging from a harness trying to be Chris Farley? Let me know in the comment section down below, who do you believe? And also let me know, why do you think Washington State is really trying to push this bill? Because it just seems to me this is another form of population control, because the left really hates people. The whole abortion thing and sterilizing your children. That's all I have for you today. I'm your host, TJ Evans, with another installment of the TJ Evans Show. Y'all remember to do the YouTube and Rumble thing. Subscribe to the Royal Family Studios page. Also, check out my book on Amazon, The Diary of Marvin, DeWayne. Don't take my word for gold. You do your own research. Y'all stay safe, stay prayed up, and also protect the children. Peace.